My name is Trisha Blake, and I am the track chair for the Collaboration Training and Education track. I am very excited to introduce the next topic, which is VR First Design for Interactive Training Simulations. Our speakers today will be Annie Eaton, CEO of Futurist, and Kevin Marcum, Program Manager from Delta Airlines. Please give them a warm AWE welcome, okay? All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all doing today? We're from Atlanta, so you get y'all. Well, we're really happy to be sharing with you today a bit about our immersive training production process. We really wanted to focus the work we did on VR first design, which is not always the case. A lot of times people try to force something that's made for 2D into 3D, and we really thought and approached this project VR first. So we'll be sharing that today. But really quick introductions. I'm Annie Eaton, as I was kindly introduced, the CEO and founder of Futurist, a virtual and augmented reality production company. We've been around about almost a decade now and worked with amazing companies like Delta and other enterprise organizations. And Kevin?
Thank you. Kevin Marcum, Delta Airlines Program Manager for ACS Cargo and Learning Department. I've been with Delta 28 years. I've been in the training department about 22 of those years. And I oversee the virtuality program for our ACS. We handle about 40,000 agents that we train annually.
So we're going to be talking about the de-ice VR simulation that we produced, started about last summer, had a great deployment earlier this year, and now we're evolving it as we speak. But Kevin, maybe let's talk first about what you can't do and why VR was the option for you.
Yeah, this was a challenge for us, because our de-icers are trained in July and August in Minneapolis when it's 80 degrees and sunny, and then they go back to their stations and they don't do anything for a month, 2 months, sometimes 3 or 4 months. So we needed something to be able to go back and check their proficiencies, make sure they remembered their training, and the only way to do that in the past was on live airplanes, and we really don't like to test on live airplanes. So we went to Futurist and said we need to create something with de-ice, which was a first for an aviation to do a de-ice VR. So it's been very, very helpful and productive, yes.
Yeah, and as you can see a couple of images here on the screen, there are a couple of things that we really wanted to utilize and enhance with virtual reality that you can't necessarily do in the physical world, especially when you're doing training or assessments, one of which is simulating the time of day and weather. I know that's a big limiter, and you all train, what time of year do you train again?
July.
So it's not snowing in July, right?
No.
You can make it snow anytime in VR, and you can also change, the precipitation and the intensity of the snow as well. Yeah. And then the other, which many of you who might already be in the space are familiar with, is the use of unlimited materials. We're not having any waste with materials. Of course, safety is a big thing as well. But really, the unlimited use of that de-ice liquid, which I imagine is not cheap.
No, it's not.
Great. So another thing that was really, really important in this process of creating a wonderful VR simulation was reference material. And I will say, for anyone in the room who is at an enterprise organization, please give your vendors, your content producers access to the real experience. I cannot express how much of a difference that it makes in the production process. You'll actually see in that yellow bucket over there, our designer Elijah Claude with a 360 camera. He's got, I think, an Insta360 Pro, and he's going up, and he did the entire process with water in the summer on a plane. They let us actually get up close and personal with the subject matter experts going through the entire process. And while we weren't really using this for a 360 video, we were still able to leverage all of that as reference to make the VR experience more impactful. And also, it gave that designer who did get to have that experience that does this feel right when it is in VR. There's a lot of back and forth. Like, we'll send it over to Kevin's team. They'll review it. They'll say, oh, no, that's not what it really feels like. So it's really hard to bottle that up and to document it. And so having this experience really made a huge impact. And Kevin, I guess, could you share a little bit about what that looks like from Delta's side of things, giving access to this? Is that something that's easy?
This was very, very important that we did this, because when we first started talking, I said we just need to come out and get into a bucket and put your team up there. And it was very helpful. It answered a lot of those questions. What did it look like? What did it feel like? How did it operate? How did the bucket move? And then we actually are going to take Elijah and maybe some other team members this July to Minneapolis and put them through our full de-ice training program, as they won't be out spraying airplanes live, but they will go through the full training program so they get a really good feel of what it is from beginning to end.
Yes, that sounds like an amazing experience. I'm going to let Elijah go. I'll stay this time. Great. Well, so I guess talk a little bit about what this looks like from the classroom perspective, but then the VR perspective. Like, how do those blend and where are they different? Yeah, so what we're going to be doing this season is when our de-icers can go through the training, after they come out of training within a couple hours, we're actually going to put them in VR headsets and kind of let them see how they retain just right then. Because you have to remember, a lot of our de-ice agents that are being trained, it's the first time they've ever been through the training. So we're going to use the VR headsets. We're going to have them in classrooms to do training, so they'll learn and then put the headsets on and see how they retain the information that they learned in the classroom. And analytics were a huge piece of this as well. So thinking about analytics that you can get in VR that you necessarily cannot get on a 2D screen or in a classroom assessment, we wanted to do things like the angle of the stream on the windows. Well, you're not supposed to spray the windows. I learned that because I failed the simulation. But the angle of that, being able to measure that, even being able to know, if you hit the Wi-Fi components. I'm probably butchering this, Kevin.
No, you're doing fine.
But all of that, you're not able to really get that from answering a yes or no question or a multiple choice in a typical classroom setting. So incorporating that not only for the experience and to teach the person how to properly achieve this de-ice process, but also to give that information back to your team to be able to learn from that and maybe adjust and adapt where there might need to be extra assistance or extra learning modules. Right, and just a couple more seconds on there. It was interesting back in, after we launched this, the safety team called me one day and said, we put our safety team, in our fourth floor general headquarters through the training and nobody can complete it. There's a problem. And I got on the phone and said, I don't understand. They said, well, they keep failing. And I said, it's doing what it was designed to do, because they don't know how to de-ice an airplane. So what they were doing is they were spraying directly at the windows. They were doing it all wrong. So it would say, you failed, you need to go back to training. So they were like, oh, okay. So it is working. Yeah, another similar story in that vein. I remember one day he called, he's like, there's too much mist coming off of the plane. I'm like, well, the videos you sent have so much mist coming off the plane because it's a hot material. You're basically spraying on ice that you can't see, and that's a part of the process. That's a part of the job. And they're like, well, maybe we'll just tone it down a little bit in VR to let them learn, and then we'll hit them with the real stuff. So it was too real, I guess. It was too real, yes. Yes, and of course scoring as well. So you'll see this multiple choice question here. So I know we're talking very much about VR first and what you can do great in VR, but sometimes there are opportunities to bring in 2D content, to bring in this blend of different training content, and putting these little checkpoints and these quizzes throughout kind of helped keep the trainees on their toes, help them be able to really think. Like, these aren't just yes or no questions, they're multiple selection. If you get everything but one, you still get it wrong. I think my favorite question is, what is the best airline? And if you don't answer Delta, you fail. So that's right. That's one of the first questions, just to get you warmed up. So with this experience, yes, we did start with virtual reality, but we went a little bit beyond that, more so due to the fact that we wanted it to be accessible and fully functional for all of the purposes that it was intended for. So we did initially deploy this on the Pico Neo 3 Pro devices, but quickly, I think your team learned that a tablet companion was going to be helpful. So can you explain the thinking behind that?
Yes, a tablet companion that Futurist was great to dive in and work very quickly to help develop, because when our ground and safety advocates are out doing these proficiency checks, we needed them to be able to see what they were doing on the VR. We couldn't cast it to a screen when we have maybe 20 people in a room doing VR. So they created a companion app where they can watch them and also see how they're answering the questions, if they're missing the questions or if they're getting them correct. And then, I won't give too much away, but moving forward, that companion app will be able to throw scenarios at them. High winds, or freezing rain is started, or the truck stopped working, or the glycol fluid's temperature is now wrong. What do you do in these situations? So they'll be able to, that trainer will be able to throw situations at them as they're in the headset.
Yeah, so starting from this really solid base of VR design and deployment, and then adding these layers on top of it to really serve the best purpose for the company. And then beyond that, what we have been calling WebXR is really an adaptive version of this for people who can't use VR, or who might be uncomfortable using VR, so that they still get very similar training content. It's really the same simulation. All of this was made in Unity, so we were able to make a WebGL build with the same files, the same assets, but allow someone to access it on a computer, which was very important to Kevin and his team.
Yes.
And adapting that for computers, as you might imagine, is a little tricky in VR, because we did design VR first. So this was the simplified controls that we came up with for a web-based version of this experience. So in the DI simulation, I'm going to use my hands as a model, but you are holding the hose. You have to pull it back to turn it on. You push forward on this I don't even know what it is.
The handle.
The handle, thank you. The handle, to turn it off. And then you can grab and twist the front of the hose to change the spray pattern. Mm-hmm. So, that is a very tactile, physical motion. Like, how are you gonna turn that into something on a computer? And we simplified it to left click, grab or spray, right click to change the spray, and then you can scroll in and out, but your mouse is moving everything you do. You're able to continue on this de-icing path. You're able to just use your mouse to click and answer the quizzes throughout. So really the big challenge was, how do we make this hose feel like a hose? It's not 100% the same, but I do feel like it does a good job. It works, it gets the point across, and it's really easy. That's another thing, is like, we don't want to overwhelm anyone with too many controls. So simplifying it and making it really easy to pick up is important.
Yes.
We were so afraid of going over on time. We are very early. So we have 10 minutes for questions instead of 5, which is very exciting.
You did well. You did well. You did well. Wow. I hope I didn't scare you.
No.
Only a little bit.
So I run a tight ship, okay? We
It's
want to
good.
honor everyone's time and energy, and thank you very much for your presentation and sharing the insights from Delta. That was really amazing. I will open up the floor for questions. Lots of questions. I saw your hand up first, then you will go, and over here, and then here, depending on time. So please keep it to one question, just so that people who do have questions can answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. So you mentioned the de-icing training scenario. Are there any other training scenarios that you've used virtual reality for at Delta? And are they physical or soft skills related?
Oh, yes, we have many, many scenarios we can use. We actually have, we did a POC pre-pandemic for the ramp operation. It was parking the airplane, marshaling, wing walking, the whole safety on the airplane, checking for damage on the airplane when it arrives, FOD or garbage on the ground. So a lot of different scenarios. We're looking at many more right now that I can't really let out of the bag right now.
Love
But
to
yeah,
hear it.
but we have several even for our above wing customer service facing agents that we're looking at for virtuality. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Great question.
Question about vendor selection process. So I understand that Futurus was providing the services, coding in Unity and everything you've done. But what was the selection? Because there are a lot of companies out there who do similar jobs. And obviously yours were the best. But what's the process step by step if you wish?
Yeah, my process, it came recommended. And so after just having a short conversation with Annie and her team, we decided that they were the ones we wanted to talk to. Selecting a vendor, you want somebody that's willing to work with you, be patient with you. I'm not a VR expert. I can't develop VR. I can tell you what, it's kind of funny. They're not de-ice experts, so we were talking these languages back and forth. So I needed someone that was very patient, that was willing to come in, get in the trucks, look, answer my questions when I called. I think they're stupid questions, but they said they're not always stupid questions. But it's just and willing to go the extra mile and think outside the box, because I had the vision, but I needed them to think outside the box and say this is what we can do, or this would be better, or this is not a good idea.
Good answer.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I saw a lot of multiple choice in there. Is that expediency, or would you ideally like to present them with like a picture? What do you take when you go out? Present them with a picture. You grab it from the thing. Is that something that you would incorporate into later versions, given time and finances to be able to do so, or do you prefer the multiple choice?
I would say I would like to see it in future, to be grabbing things, but the multiple choice, it came from what we did prior to the virtuality. And I'll real quick, because we really didn't touch on it. Prior to virtuality, we were doing proficiency checks. And how to do a proficiency check was I would go get in a bucket of a truck, hope it snowed that day so I could really see. If it didn't, I could just watch them drive around and practice without actually spraying the airplane. We were averaging about 2 or 3 a day. And these questions that you saw were questions that we would ask them verbally. What PPE equipment do you need? What's the purpose of communicating with the pilot? So what's your temperature on your glycol? We would ask those verbally and check a box. So we were averaging about 2 a day per station. And we have 485 stations and about 285 that are DI stations. When we launched virtuality, we were averaging about 150 a day proficiency checks. So it really increased but answer your question, moving forward, yes, a lot more ideas that yeah.
Thank you for the question. I'm headed over to the other side of the room, and then I will go to the back of the room, to be fair.
They're making you work for it.
Getting your steps in today.
Yes.
One of your slides mentioned that you incorporated this into the classroom. What was the reaction of your facilitators, trainers, that we were moving to VR, and what did you do to prepare them?
Yeah, well, you always have the skeptic saying it's going to take my job. But I think after they see the VR and see how it can really work together with the classroom and them out training, they see that it's not going to replace them as instructors. We still need that face-to-face, that instructor. And let's be realistic, the perfect training is live actually doing it. But you have to remember, in airline industry, our airplanes, if they're not flying, they're not making money. So we can't just park airplanes and go out and work. We can't go out and practice on airplanes that are turning, because you all wouldn't be happy if we're delaying flights because we're trying to train people on them. So you have to remember, the airplane comes in, it's there for 35 to 40 minutes, and it's back out. That's unloading, loading. So our trainers know that, and they see it, and they're very accepting to it and anxious to get it out into virtuality and into the training room.
Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. I'm on my way.
So we did good by getting time for questions.
I know, we wanted to leave you all time for questions.
Yeah.
It was all a part of the.
Thank you. So, question from me is, how did you actually choose the device like Pico 3, and especially like the whole human factors, wearing it for a long time, and all of the discomfort that it causes?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the device goes, we did evaluate a lot of different devices. We're always looking at them. We're always advising our customers on what we feel is going to be the best fit for a project. We knew it needed to be a standalone device. That was like a non-negotiable. They're going to be bringing them in Pelican cases all over the place. You've dealt with Vive setups before. Sorry, HTC people, we love Vive. But it's a lot. It's a lot if you need a portable unit. So finding Pico and being able to leverage the Neo 3 devices at the time was just, great timing, a good device, portability, and then we also leverage Arbor XR for deployment. So the fact that they were able to integrate in with that and it made such a seamless experience overall was really my reason why. I'm the one who has to help load them up, so maybe it was selfish.
No, and like Annie said, from advice from them, the Pico Neo 3 seemed to be the best way to go. And they're very, I will say, durable. We were just talking about this earlier. I have a test headset that I travel with. I call it my backpack. I just carry it with me because Futures is always saying, hey, we're sending out a new test. Take a look at it. No matter where I am, I put it on. I take a look. I've dropped that thing about 30 times now. It seems to be handling pretty good. Yeah, and again, a good relationship with Pico has been very helpful. They're being helpful, tell me what's coming in the future so that we're not getting things that are going to be outdated in the next few weeks or month. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm on my way. We probably have time for 2 more questions. 1.5, maybe. I need a runner. 1 question, please. Thank you.
I got in another 50 steps for you on your tracker today. It's a 2-part question with hopefully the same answer, I think, or one unified answer. Is the biggest question in enterprise is how are you getting executive sponsorship? So in terms of the other way to say it is business case. We've seen enough of, if you spend $1 million, you'll save 5. No one gets the $1 million funded, right? Even after showing that. The other way to say it is business model eats business case for lunch. Is there a business model you're selling internally that gets this pushed further than what we call science projects? Because a lot of these end up in pilots. It seems like the numbers you gave are pretty significant scale. If I heard 20,000 or 40,000 a year. So how are you selling this as a business model internally? How are you getting that sponsorship?
Pretty easy. Safety. It's all about safety with this. It's the return on investment. It's the safety of our employees, safety of our customers, especially with the de-ice. I don't want to scare anybody, but if an airplane goes out with ice on it, it's not good, okay? It's not going to fly. We don't want to take those chances. So, and then safety of our employees out on the ramp, training them better, getting them more practice, being in the environment. Again, we hire people that have never been on the ramp. They've never flown on an airplane. You put them outside with jet engines running, airplanes moving around, equipment, and it gets a little nervous. So this gives them a very good opportunity to have a headset on, be close to it in the real world with the noise in the headsets and the equipment running around to give them that environment to learn in. So that's how we sell it to our executive team, is the safety.
Thank you. 1 more. Keep it punchy, all right? Appreciate your patience, all.
Good afternoon. A question with VR that often comes to the table is who owns the intellectual property, and how did you handle that with Delta Airlines? Are you willing to sell that solution to other airline companies, or how will you deal with that?
That's a trick question there. No, I'm willing to share. I mean, I think we're all I talk to other airlines, UPS, FedEx. We work together. If an airline called me and said, "Hey, we want to talk to you about your VR," I'm open to it. I'll give them my suggestions. and guide them in the right direction of who to go to and who to talk to. Yeah, I think it's great for all the airlines. It's nothing that we're in competition with, trying to beat somebody to the punch or anything. We got free Wi-Fi on the airplanes first, so we got that one.
That's pretty good. Yeah, and the only thing I'd add to that, maybe not a direct answer to your question, is like I feel like a theme of this whole event is everyone wants to see this industry succeed. So having the attitude like Kevin has, like the willingness to share, to be open, to speak with each other about what's happening and what we're all doing actively and what we're seeing works and doesn't work is so important. So I know we're out of time, but I'll leave you with that and hopefully take that mindset into the rest of the event.
Well, thank you very much, Annie and Kevin.
Thank you.